Welcome, everyone, to Hanging Out with Howie on Monday nights. And I've got two superstars in the room. To my left, the one and only musical savant, Brian S. Red. And to my right, journeyman, an awesome DJ, and a cool friend we met in Vegas. And that was actually the first time that we actually met you, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was the trip to the expo in Vegas.
Awesome. So it's going to be like a Q&A night. I have a whole bunch of questions here, and I asked Brian on because he's addressed this question many times in the room, and probably a few times in maybe one of your videos. But what do you do when you get a bad playlist? And right away I was like, oh man, I don't want to tell Brian's story. So tell him about the family hour thing.
Well, it's something that I've always done, but I didn't have a name for it. And when I was talking to Mike Sanchez out in Anaheim after one of the NAMM shows, he said, yeah, whenever I have somebody who comes at me with this wacky playlist or this list of songs that I know isn't going to work for the crowd, I just tell them, hey, happy to play them, but can I make a suggestion? Most of my guests do what we call family hour. I said, well, what's that? I said, well, that's when I play songs for your grandma and your mom and your nieces, your nephews, and even some things that you might like, things that everybody likes. And, after that family hour, we can just jump into whatever you want. Are you cool with doing that? And they're like, yeah, I guess whatever. And what ends up happening is, it's been my experience, that you start out that way, where you're playing to your audience that's in front of you, playing to your crowd, and it goes over so well, they don't want the family hour to end. So it usually goes 2 hours. And ultimately, what has been my experience is I'm only doing like maybe an hour of their specialty music at the end, if any at all, because they're so into what's happening with just the general vibe with everybody having fun.
Cool. Now, John Cawley from Boston. We affectionately call you Boston John because there's so many Johns.
Sure.
John, what do you do with that? I know that I've seen you mix. You can play just about anything, but should you?
Well, so you figure they've pieced together their playlist over time. You think of it like a patch quilt. There's a red square and a green square, and they hand you this bucket of squares, and it's your job to make sense of it and try to put it together in a way that keeps the order of the night. It's a guideline, more or less, if you view it that way.
Mm-hmm.
There will be must plays, and you try to say, well, I'm going to do so many early. This is hour 2. This is hour 3. You want all the must play requests done before you get into the closing hour, because people start to trail off. But if you use that as a tool and build from what they give you, it really just shows you what kind of music they've grown up with, what they listen to, and it helps you ask the right questions to say, this is kind of an older song. I'm surprised this is on the list. Oh, this was from our high school. This we dated in prom, and okay, this is a very important part of the night now. So you find out little clues within that music if you ask the questions. A lot of times, as I say, they've compiled it over time, and we as DJs prep our sets, but we're pretty much mixing on the fly. It's the feel of the room and what's going on right in front of you. But if you keep that as the common thread and come back to it, like the little ping pong ball on the paddle with the rubber string, you can hit it out a few times, and sometimes a little further than others, but you always try to come back to a home base, an area that's in the music that they're familiar with, that they wanted. And that gives you a little freedom of license, I guess you'd say.
I once had a couple where the groom wanted nothing to do with the planning stuff, and so it was all like, okay, here, you take care of it. And the bride gave me a list that was like must have been 80 songs, and they were all slow. Like, I think it was just like that, the whole romance of I'm getting married, and it was all these slow, sappy love songs. And I was like, wow. Okay. what are we going to do for dancing? I wound up burning a lot of that stuff up for cocktail and dinner that were like must play type things. But yeah, sometimes it's tough out there. So let's see what were some of the other questions? I wrote these down. It was coming in. So okay. How about, like, we see a lot of folks that are doing, I've noticed this, lighting basics for people that are doing video, or, I mean, Brian, you're the OG, with the YouTube stuff, and John, you're on Twitch all the time. But I have noticed that some people's cameras, the lettering is backwards, but they promise that I'm a total professional, and I'm thinking, what are people thinking about that? I mean, it's really easy to set that in your camera. So that, and just basic lighting techniques. I know, Brian, you've actually made a couple of rigs where you have it all in one.
Well, truth be told, my videos are crap. The lighting's bad in them, and it's just about content. Mm-hmm. And at first, it was because I really didn't know any better, but it's almost become kind of a running inside joke with myself, where it's like, you know what, the videos are just crap. It's all about the content, because I see a lot of flashy videos.
Right.
So I want to do like the worst videos possible with the best content in them. I don't know if anybody gets that joke, but that's what I do. So
I like that. I don't think your videos are crappy.
I got a lot of flicker, because I'm not using flicker free lighting. You're supposed to do that, like with your LED. It's supposed to be flicker free, but my stuff flickers like crazy. My bags. Look at my eyes; they don't look that bad.
Yeah, but you used to have that light overhead that flickered, and you did fix that. But I mean, I know what you mean by flicker, flickering lights, but I don't notice that on your videos.
It's there.
Is it really?
People will point it out. Hey, you got a flickering light there. It's like, oh, really? Wow.
Fluorescent lights are terrible for the flicker. You get a lot of strange effects going on. Most of what happens in the real world is all, real lights. And Brian, I have you to thank for a lot of my lighting collection over the years, watching some of your videos. So spent quite a few dollars in your name. To have that stuff go out and to see it in the real world, it's just in a dark room with a lot of flashy lights. It's hard to capture real time properly. The reverse letters, it's just attention to detail. That's something you set once and it's done. But most, like with the videos that are going up that I'm doing for the Twitch broadcasting, it's mostly simulated digitally. Whereas I'm on a camera and I'm in the forefront, and then there's an effect running behind me like a wallpaper, and then you make that see-through, and then there's an effect running behind that might be doing something else, and it's basically just layering. So you don't have lights washing out or interfering with one another, because it's all synthetic, I guess you would say.
But I don't even know how this stuff works.
You're coming out the cool effect out the other end, that it doesn't look like too much going on.
I have no idea how this works. So here, let me ask you this. I just have a question for both of you. If I held this up, is it right side? Is it backwards, or is it right? Or is it correct?
That's correct.
It's correct.
Okay, from my perspective, it's backwards.
Yes.
So what I see is kind of like, I can lean this, if it was the opposite, I'd probably get vertigo and throw up. So, but the camera kind of reverses it for you on broadcast.
That's an option in Zoom settings to reverse it. It's weird that you move in the direction you move on the screen. It just feels wrong.
Yeah, I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm going to say the technical term is mirror. Like what we're seeing, like I'm looking in here and I could see that my logo here on the shirt and behind me, it's reversed. That's the mirror. It's like looking in a mirror. Yeah. But what's important is what's going out.
Right. And what's going out for you is the correct way.
Right. So anyway, for whatever it's worth, to people out there, like if you're doing your walk along and you're like, hey, I got some advice for you on my morning walk, and you got your selfie stick out there, and you can see on your camera that the letters are correct and perfect, what's going out is reversed. No, I mean, these are some top guys out there that are selling courses.
Walking through hotels. I saw that
and
one.
I'm like, I mean, I'm not calling anybody out. I mean, I privately messaged.
There's not that many of them.
I privately messaged a few people and said, hey, I can help you out. Here's what the setting is. And I didn't get a response, but that's okay.
Don't get me started.
I tried to help, but
do the best we can with what we got.
I'm a guest tonight. Come on, I gotta myself.
But yeah, anyway, to answer your question, yeah, if you're seeing the letters reversed, that's good.
Right.
That's the mirror effect.
Somebody else is seeing them
correctly.
Yeah. Well, when I do shoot my videos, I'm probably not a little known fact. People probably know this because I used to get a lot of criticism about this, and I thought, what? Why do you care? But I'm watching myself in the viewfinder of the camcorder. So I'm blocking myself. So what happens, unfortunately, I'm so close to the camera, you can see my eyes shift towards the camera. Why aren't you looking at the camera? It's like, because I'm looking at the monitor. I'm a one-man band here. I got to monitor myself. So.
Yeah, I had to practice that. I noticed that my earlier videos, I wasn't looking into the camera when I'm speaking to the audience, or like I'll look over and look at you, Brian, and then it looks like, oh, wait,
well, you know what I did? You know what I did? I told him, so what? Deal with it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's free. When I start charging you for stuff, you can start nitpicking on my production quality.
Yeah, there you go.
But until that time, beso mi culo blanco.
Yeah, it's normal. It's the new Zoom world. You have to look at see where you are on the screen and look at other people once in a while. I think people have become more familiar, and that's more common.
Now, JC probably thought that was really funny because he knows what I said, and so does Lori. Lori probably knows exactly what I just said. It's kind of funny.
So, all right. Another question I have for both of you. John, we'll start with you.
Okay.
Because I know the three of us, we do get a lot of messages and questions from people, whether it's about gear or music or whatever. What is one of the number one questions that you get, for advice on, or to fix something, whatever?
A lot of times with the DJs I talk to that have come to see me play, they always ask about how to maintain the energy level. And it's more than BPM, because you can have a 90 beat song per minute that feels fast, and you can have a 120 that feels slow. There's more in the tempo and in the sub rhythms of a song. They give it more buildup. So in my crates and folders, I have certain ones marked that show that they have a little bit more energy. Like a 90 beat Pitbull or Sean Paul is going to sound more aggressively energetic than 122 beat Madonna, because it's only hitting on the half beat. So you're really just getting it as a 60, even though it's reading as a faster beat. You can mix it either way. So if you wanted to slow it down over that crest, you could do that. But if you get towards a point where you're trying to build the energy for 4 or 5 songs in a row, you try to maintain the energy level of what's happening within the track. Play songs with a lot of dips. A good example, and being mindful and knowing the music too, was when Britney's first came out, the One More Time. There was this dip at the end of the song where it went almost to just a spoken word with no beats behind it. So I would mix over that. I would have the next track ready to go. I'd pull it and I'd duplicate the song that's playing, the Britney song, and I'd set it up at the end of that jump and just move right past it, because you don't want that dip to just suck the energy out of this dance that you're trying to build. So it's being conscious of what's in the songs and knowing the material and using the waveforms, because now that it's digital, it's a lot more easy to see what's coming. And you're like, oh, there's this whole dead zone here. I'm just going to just bypass that.
Right. Right.
So you kind of know what's on the horizon a little more than when we were doing vinyls or CDs. then you really had to know the music. And, there weren't cue points and there weren't things. You'd have to just, either get out of the song or try something different.
Wow. That was such an excellent question and answer. Can you speak to this, Brian, before you answer the question? Because you're a music guy. I look at something, it's like 80 BPMs, but it's like John said, it's like, I have to put a little mark next to it, or comment like, hey, this is really an upbeat, it seems more than 80 to me. What's up with that?
Well, I mean, if something says it's 80 BPM, there's no reason in the world that it can't just be 160. So you can treat it like that. And you can, for an example, you can do that. And you know what I do a lot of times when the beat isn't like being spoon-fed to the audience and they're not really quite sure what to do, I use lighting as a visual cue, so it helps them. And there are times, what John was talking about, that break at the end there, Britney Spears. I see it a lot in the EDM songs, where for some reason there's like a B section, but it's silence, and I usually like to mix out there. I remember seeing it in Kesha. I remember seeing it in Katy Perry songs, where you just had this like lull.
Yeah. But unless it's something essential for the track, like Sandstorm, and the buildup is half the song.
Yeah, but with Sandstorm, I actually just leave it because people expect it and they know it and they're familiar with it. But with some of these other songs, it happens and you're like, what do you do with that? One More Time, Daft Punk is a really good example of that because it just died.
Right.
And if they really know the song, you're cool. What my friend Jay Brennan does, wherever he happens to be in the world right now, is he'll actually start sometimes at the B section, the slow part. He'll come out of a slow song and then play the slow part one more time. Let them continue to slow dance. Then it builds up and jumps into the dance song of the last part of the song. Play with it, have fun. I don't know.
Yeah, he's clever that way.
Lots of creative ways to sew those together for sure.
But to answer your question
now, Brian, what is one of the top questions or that you get on a regular basis?
The top question that I get, is I'll just touch on it because it's not like the question you're looking for. But my top question is this. Brian, what do you really think of that speaker? What do you really think of that light? No, I'm not picking on anybody for asking me this question because you know who else asked me this question? My mom. I saw that video you did on that thing. What do you really think of it? It's like, Mom, I didn't lie in the video. I told you what I thought of it. But that's the number one question. It's weird. They question my sincerity on this stuff. Even my own mother questions my sincerity on my YouTube videos. So I've got some work to do. I don't know what I can do, but I got to do something because that ain't working out for some reason.
Yeah, but you made it really well known many years ago that if somebody sends you something and you don't like it, you're not going to make a video about it and pump it up, or even for that matter, insult them and say, hey, this isn't what I expected. So,
you're an avid watcher, though. There were a lot of people who just jumped in last week or last month or whatever, and they're not that familiar with it. But you would think my mom would get it, but she don't get it. But that is my number one question, believe it or not. Aside from that, it seems like DJs are no different than brides in the regard that they need to be assured of things. They need to be chilled out. And I get it a lot with, are those lights bright enough? Are they worth it? Are the speakers loud enough? Are you sure you can do 150 people with those speakers? Are you positive? I don't know.
Depends. Depends.
Oh, looking
really
looking for validation. Okay.
It's like, well, look, and I have to approach it like this. Like, it depends on your sound objectives, buddy. If you're trying to blow everybody's head off, probably not. But if you're trying to do a hot spot with conversation areas, it's perfect for my application. But if you want to fill a room, you might want to think about this. So it's not just is it loud enough for this amount of people? It's like, what are your circumstances? Give me room size. Give me something. It's a lot of work to answer these questions, but I do my best to take my time and answer them.
Yeah, you do though. You do.
I try.
I'm always amazed at your patience. Hey, look,
man, we all have questions.
We have superstar social butterfly, Mr. Jay Brannon in the room.
We do. So,
Jay,
John, I hope you said everything you wanted to say, because Jay's going to suck all the oxygen. He's not.
How long are we going, Howie?
We won't be able to speak again tonight.
And that's the show, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, there won't be a show next week. I'm fired. But Jay, what's the number one question you get typically for advice?
Pioneer gear.
Is it
which piece? Yeah, it's always Pioneer gear, and it's always, hey, is this worth the extra money? Or they've made the decision and they just want, like Brian said, they just want validation. They just want to make sure they're making the right choice. And I tell everyone the same thing: you buy the best gear you can afford when you need it. You don't wait 6 months and say, I'm going to save up and get this. You come in the gate and say, I want to get, this, and this, and I want to get it. I need it now. I don't need it in 6 months. I don't need it in 2 years. I need it today. I've got gigs. So, and I tell them, buy whatever is the best piece you can buy, because you're going to have it for a while. So, if you're unclear about a controller, then don't buy one.
Did you just shave your beard, Jay?
Yeah, a few days ago.
It took 20 years off. I'm telling you right now.
He did.
Thank you.
20 years, easily.
Thank you.
I got to say, Lori and I were talking about that Saturday night because we had seen the picture, and she went, Jay looks younger. And we were like, oh, yeah. I said,
it's the beard.
The COVID, long hair and beard thing that everybody was doing.
Yeah, I asked the question on Facebook, and it's like no one. I think Nick Hahn was the only one that's like, yeah, dude, keep the beard.
Yeah, that's cool. Nick. That sounds like Nick.
Everyone else was like, it's so 2020.
But when Nick shaves his beard, he'll look 20 years younger.
Yeah. Nick looks like a little kid.
Yeah, absolutely. He's younger than I am, and he's older than I am right now.
Nick, and that's why I didn't grow a beard, because,
right,
you'd be calling me Colonel Sanders or something. I'm already 97.
Yeah, there you go. It ends up being laziness, So, what can you do?
I don't get this whole, hey, I want to let all this gray grow out. It'll be great.
Yeah, no one ever.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Look, Jesus invented hair dye for a reason. Just saying.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Randy Bartlett, when he retired, he did make a post. He goes, "No secret, I've been dyeing my hair for a long time, but he would always be clean shaven because that's even harder to do." But he said, just for the clients, I mean, there's people out there that are going to be, hey, I don't want grandpa, doing my wedding type of thing. And, that's why I feel like I've aged with my clients. I don't do like school dances or anything anymore, but I still have those relationships where, hey, now these people are captains of industry or doctors and lawyers, and they're like, hey, we're having this thing. And so I've aged with them, and I hope gracefully, but how about you guys?
I'm feeling pretty good because on Saturday I was outside during a break, and there were several people outside, and they were talking about DeLoreans, and some guy was trying to tell the story about how, the cocaine bust and all that stuff, and he got it all wrong. And I'm like telling him, hey,
of course,
it's like this, and this. And he's looking at me like, what do you know, you little punk? How old are you? And the first time it ever came out of my mouth, and I'm 10 days away, but I said 50. He said, oh. That was my first win. Yeah. I was like, all right, we're cool. We're cool. I don't look it. This 40-year-old guy thought I was 29, and he looked at me like, shut up, kid. I'm good. They're going to treat me like hell, but that's okay. I'd rather be treated badly than look my age.
Wear it like a badge of honor. Absolutely.
Somebody posted, it was, oh boy, Lou, is it Paris?
Lou Paris, yeah.
He posted a picture today of the traveling Wilburys.
Yes.
And their ages, like I think Roy Orbison was like 52, and the guy looked like 52. He was 1,000.
Look, yeah, like 100.
Like they used to age
my age now.
Yeah. I think Tom Petty was like 37. It's like, are you kidding
37.
me? Yeah. Jeff Lynne was 42. It was ridiculous. And these guys looked old, but don't look old. Something in the water. I don't know.
Brian Johnson sang with Foo Fighters the other night.
That was awesome.
It sounded good, looked good. And then you stop and realize Brian Johnson's 73 years old.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's nuts.
Amazing.
Crazy.
I think I heard a great comment years and years ago, and it was talking in context of artists and performing. And they said, it's not how old you are, it's how you are old.
Yeah.
And I took that to heart, and I think it really meant if you show up and you're like, I'm not playing this damn 90s grunge crap tonight.
Freaking
you know what? I think you turn the corner.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to stay current to the point of here's 1,000 new songs of which I found 30 that I can work in, because we are in a very interesting industry. We can tell somebody exactly how old we are when they say play this. The other night, the bride wanted classic rock for cocktail, and I'm playing everything from Aerosmith, Tom Petty, Bob Seger,
right,
Scorpions, Rat, Whitesnake. You know, I'm playing all these different songs, and I ended up playing George Harrison, What Is Life, which I played as a recessional at a wedding once, and people were like freaked out by it because it's just such a perfect song for different things. And two people came over who were obviously only in their early 30s. And the guy said, I just want to compliment you on something. The music's been great for cocktail. I'm like, oh, thank you very much. He goes, you played George Harrison, What Is Life? And I looked at my girlfriend and I said, this isn't a good wedding song. And I waited about 10 seconds and I looked back at her and I said, I was wrong. This is an amazing wedding song. And I said, it's one of those tracks that we forget about. And it's one of like 10,000 songs that we could probably name tonight that you forget about that are perfect. And it's like you hear that dun, it's like Badfinger, you know.
Right.
Every time I've ever played Badfinger or What Is Life, I get compliments, and people are like, I don't think I know this. I've heard it. It's, you know, it's like one of the big jams now is Lit, My Worst Enemy.
Right.
You just need that guitar intro, and people are immediately enraptured by it. And I think that's part of not being old as a DJ.
Feels like yesterday, but that song's 20 years old now.
Well, yeah. I remember saying to somebody the other day, it's like, you know, stop and realize AC/DC's Back in Black came out in 1980. You know, we're now talking 41 years ago. That's a considerable amount of time.
Duran Rio is 39 years old today, by the way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, this stuff is still working. My wedding the other night's a good example of where we're going now. And it was a lot of Backstreet, Blink, NSYNC, Spice Girls. Well, you know, if you look at the age of that stuff, you're now going on 30 years.
25 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you get into that early 90s period and you're like, if it was 91, it's now 30 years old. So, you know, all the grunge stuff is 31, 32 years old.
I was playing a lot of the Cardi B stuff and the, you know, Megan Thee Stallion and all that stuff. They were asking for it. I was playing and the kids were dancing. And this guy came up to me. He was like, hey, have you ever heard of this band? It's called Gap Band. Have you ever heard of them? Could you, if you could look, GAP, Gap Band. I'm like, yeah, I know Gap Band. It's like, well, they have a song called Burn Rubber. I'm like, yeah, outstanding. And You Dropped the Bomb on Me and Party. Oh my God, you know Gap Band? I'm like, yeah, I know Gap Band.
That's so funny.
It was just surreal. It's like, are you kidding me? Like he thought it was like this 25-year-old hip hop DJ or something. I'm like,
Right,
no, I know
right.
Gap Band, dude.
But and that's the thing about playing old new music sometimes,
Yeah.
where you can dance between both genres and both audio. I had a girl come up the other night. She goes, "Do you have the wobble?" I'm like, and I just shook my head. And she's like, "You know this song?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"So is this has got to be I'm too old to know it, and it's not that old of a song, or is this?" I couldn't get a read on her, and I was like.
Why do you?
And I did read. Sometimes you can say more by saying nothing, and I just kept.
Well, is this
Right.
before you shaved the beard or after?
No, this was after. This was after. This was Saturday. This was Saturday night when I got a lot of great compliments. Again, old, new, and the mix
Right.
was Bad Romance into Whitney Houston,
I
Dance
saw
with
it.
Somebody.
I saw
That
you
was-
doing that.
That
And
was a nice
It
transition.
worked. Yeah, it worked really nicely. But again, I'm going to find something to play with Megan Thee Stallion Savage. And I've already got stuff I play with Truth Hurts by Lizzo.
Oh,
Because
and by
of,
the way, it's Megan Thee Stallion. I didn't know that until I was trying to look.
Oh
it up
yeah,
on my
the with
computer.
THEE.
H-E-E.
Yeah.
oh,
She's
it's
taken some
Stallion.
time off because of the immense amount of work she's done, I guess, in the last couple of years. She's already announced she wants to take a break for a second.
She should take a break.
It's got to be tough.
She's probably getting reissued.
And that's the last thing I'm going
She's
to
at
say.
the Furrier.
23 years old and all worn out like that. Not like Dorian Gray like the rest of us here. Music
No.
gets older, we stay the same.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Does anybody have any final thoughts before we put a button on this
I
thing?
just want to apologize for hijacking your show.
You didn't? I actually felt better that you were going to come on because I just feel odd telling someone else's story. You know,
I talk about you all the time, and I pretend it's me. Hey, I used to do sound at Max's Kansas City back in the punk rock days.
well, that's different.
I'm always, driving around on Lou Reed's Harley Davidson. It's just the thing I do.
Steve.
Well, but I do honestly. When I get these private messages and stuff like that, I do. I'm like, you know what? Like I take shortcuts, man. I'm like, okay, here's a link to Brian's video. Because
You can always do credits.
I'm like, I don't have time for I mean, I hate to be rude, but I mean, I don't want to, repeat something that's already there. That's much better than the answer I could give, in typing.
Sure.
Here's a video that actually shows how to do it. So that's what I do.
It's the same with just sometimes not bothering and just saying, okay, here, the answer's 7. Like I could send you to like the Abacus page and I could talk you through statistics and calculus 101, but the answer's 7. You sure?
Yeah.
Wait, okay, you didn't know the answer. You asked me, I gave it to you, and then you got to follow up with, are you sure? Okay, maybe it's 6.
No, I'm not sure. You should ask someone else.
Yeah, why don't you work it out?
Give a man
Pencil.
a fire, he's warm for the day. Set a man on fire and he's warm for the rest of his life.
I feel like
Yeah.
the answer is 7. That's what I feel. I
Do you have any
I
scratch
believe
paper?
the answer is 7. That's what I believe.
Yeah, with all my heart, I'm pretty sure.
I don't absolute it. It's like I believe, yes.
Yeah,
My favorite answer is, have you read the manual?
we used to Pulse and I, as you will find out. It's not have you read the manual? It's RTFM, and that would be the like somebody just asked about this dash RTFM.
I know what you mean. Yep.
And I hate to say it, but the answer's usually there. And as I've done with Brian's videos and Howie's and everyone else's, it's amazing how if you just put it in the search bar in Google, I guarantee somebody shot a video.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It's there.
But, yeah. I spend more time giving people links than anything else sometimes.
Yeah. All right, guys. Hey, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you, Howie.
And Jay, thanks for photobombing. John, thank you for dropping in. And Brian,
As always, Howie.
I do appreciate it. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week. Take care.